Welcome to the second Roosters live stream. We are quite warm up here at the upstairs room at the Brewery and Tap Room here in Harrogate. I'm Rachel. I'm a huge champion of beer in my hometown of Harrogate, and I'm a marketing consultant, and I also founded beer equality social enterprise Women on Tap, and I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting this chat this evening. Just a few bits of admin. We're tasting 4 beers this evening from the most recent Discovery pack. We are chatting to Tom and Ol, who we'll hear from in a second. We're going to have a break halfway, so you can go and run about and do what you need to do. And hopefully we have a live chat this month, and you can submit some questions, tell us what you think about the beers, and generally get some bants going on YouTube. Without further ado, everyone's a bit flustered, running around, trying to get bottle openers. It's all calm, we're all here.
It's all good.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask Tom to just give us a quick reminder about the Discovery Club, how it works, what it is.
Yeah, so, hi, by the way, I'm Tom, I'm the Commercial Director at Roosters. I know we did that last time, but
we did do that
might have
last
new people
time.
joining this time, so sorry, I just thought I'd introduce myself as I begin to talk, and then I'll probably want to do that as well. So yeah, Discovery Club is our subscription service that we launched in April. This is box number 2 that we're going to be tasting some of the beers from tonight. And the idea around it was, it coincided with launching the first beer out of our barrel age project, which was Wild Life, the Pinot Noir edition last time. And then also sort of building it around our Sixer fridge packs as well. So it's the Sixer Plus Discovery Club. Every month we subscribers get first access to certain limited edition beers. they get a sixer that rotates every different month. It'll always be a pale ale, so it's something that most people kind of come to us for anyway. But what the reason around the discovery element of it is there's other things that we do, sour beers or dark beers, or last month we had a best bitter in, just, nothing, so sometimes they're not all going to be weird, wild and wonderful, and sometimes there'll be core range beers in there and whatever, but the idea is what we're putting together as a group in that box is an experience. It's a journey in terms of styles and flavours and all that kind of thing. So this is what we're about to get into in a few minutes, a few beers from box number 2, and then we'll touch on it at the end again, I'm sure, but box number 3 subscriptions for that will go live on Tuesday.
So it's still very early days for the Discovery Club, but I get mine at home, and it's always very exciting. I hope that you're having lots of nice feedback. Obviously, lots of excitement around the first barrel-aged beer last month.
Yeah.
And more to talk about on that later.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, we've been delighted with the uptake on it so far and the feedback we had from that first box. And knowing, we're not going to mention them in this, they're sort of up our sleeve for further down the line, but knowing some of the beers that we've currently got lined up and plotted for future boxes, we're really excited about the whole thing going forwards.
Excellent.
Do you want me to say something?
Go for it. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm Ol, head brewer, Tom's brother. How's that?
Is that it? Before we get on to some drinks, obviously the important bit, I just wanted to ask you how it's been. Obviously, we've reopened inside pubs since the last live stream. So how's it been? How's it affected your business, staff?
It's been great. I mean, it's like we're still nowhere near back to normality, but in terms of being able to sell beer to pubs again, or all pubs, before in April when we met and we did this, it was, I think the ballpark figure was something like 30% of the pubs in the UK were open and trading, and we were pleasantly surprised by, even with the rubbish weather in the back end of that period, just how busy it was for us selling beer back to into the trade. So it's been great, and then the last couple of weeks with indoors and that kind of thing has just been, it's really, really good. And with the when pubs are ordering from us, and they've had that fire in their belly for months, probably just sat by, frustrated as everyone else, but it's really, really good. And part of the reason actually that what we tried to do last time, obviously we had Stu involved last time, but he unfortunately, not unfortunately for him, he is watching Turin Breaks this evening, a gig at home with his wife. So, but last time, if you remember, we were much more spread out. We've all been jabbed and all that kind of thing, but
a lot's happened since the last one.
Yeah, so we were much more spread out last time. Like if now we could only meet outside at that point in April, but now actually we're still trying to keep a little bit of distance between us to be responsible. But actually, we could all just go and sit and have a beer downstairs together, and we're not breaking any rules.
And probably will.
Yeah, hopefully. So that's kind of why we moved it up into the sample room. But equally, I felt, and I think you agree, for you as well, this is a bit more relaxed and a bit more natural to sit at a bar or sit and have this. Before, it felt afterwards, because we had to keep that distance, when I look back at it, it looked a bit like a debate we were having, or a hustings or something. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased, and hopefully come June we're going to get some more positive news and things can relax a little bit more.
We'll see. But your tap room is so spread out. It's just great anyway, isn't it, for people that might feel a little bit uneasy, not quite sure. It's one of the places, I guess, that you can definitely go. And
we've always had the benefit of the space here. So coming out of lockdown 1, we kind of knew that we were able to offer that for people, and the guys from that lockdown, we're kind of like, you just got used to, right, we know what we're doing. Yeah. We've got to provide this or whatever, and we're blessed with the beer garden when it's sunny and all that kind of stuff. So
I think we're showing using the sample room for the football.
So come June we'll be the initial games, the first couple of fixtures. There'll still be the restrictions in place for the rule of 6 and all that kind of stuff. But this is where we'll be showing the England games for the Euros. So we'll share more of that on website and social media probably when I remember to get around to doing it. But yeah, so that's going to be a good space for us to do this, and we've got downstairs, and we've got the beer garden, so we are really blessed. But I mean, I know there's so many pubs that are, so characterful, or just small and characterful, who kind of have struggled through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So come June, fingers crossed, it's obviously a little bit up and down still, but hopefully they can really get back into it because they'll have had 15 months of
Yeah.
really hard.
It's
Yeah.
been nice
Yeah.
to see, sort of on social media, more than anywhere really, but nice to see customers of ours, you know, sharing their first week or two of being open and you know
Yeah.
what it means to them, but also then their customers and you
Yeah.
know, equally sort of just sharing the sort of joy of being able to get back to the pub, and it does sort of feel like there's a bit more, there's a greater sense of normality sort of coming
Yeah.
back, just even from going from being able to drink in the beer garden to drinking inside.
Yeah.
It's
Well, the weather was very challenging, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At times when it was outside.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you know, this is the first decent day in God knows how long, but you know what the weather was like here on even Tuesday this week, Monday this week. It was just you just sort of so grateful that you know that's not the be all and end all of how you're able
Yeah.
to open anymore. I've just realised on these notes that you've put how's it getting back to the tap room, back open, work needed, how are the staff, etc. And it says football. I thought you said football.
I thought it said football. That's right.
I was like, brilliant. We're going to talk Leeds United. We're going to be able to. No, it says football.
No, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it
I
said
wondered why you
football.
mentioned
That's
it.
why I mentioned
But when I thought we're talking about Leeds.
No, that's all the football chat done.
Good,
Oh.
because we're not talking about Sheffield.
A bit later.
Yeah, it does say football. I thought it said football. That's why I mentioned.
I thought it was
Sorry for all those people that have tuned in just to hear about football.
Yeah.
when
not.
you've actually tuned in to hear about football.
I
But-
think it's time for a beer. Should we get the first beer open?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Keep
Put
chatting
that one-
about, you
put
know,
that one away.
how wonderful the tap room is, if you like. But
Well, yeah. I mean, just we're going to. I think you know, knowing some of the questions that have come in already, and we're going to talk about other things to do with opening up pubs and
yeah,
where we've each managed to get to and all this kind of stuff. We'll definitely kind of keep talking about
Sorry, I
that.
need to sneeze.
Oh, poor Andrew with the headphones on.
Covered. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely. I think everything just feels a lot more positive than last time.
yeah, yeah. And
and
I've heard lots of people saying about how much cask everyone's drinking, like everyone's missed cask beer.
Do you know, like the sales in the tap room ever since we opened it have always been the draft sales, roughly speaking, have always been about 60-40 here in favour of cask.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed
Okay.
as dramatically as I thought it would. I thought there'd be an even bigger swing towards cask to start with, and
Yeah.
actually, on the trade sales side of things, talking to Ben, who's our head of sales, I was talking to him earlier today. Like, we're struggling to keep up with keg supply.
Yeah, keg has been.
Keg's
Oh,
been,
okay.
but it's taken us by surprise. You know,
Yeah.
it's difficult to predict
good.
because you know the cask sales have been strong, but keg's kind of taken everyone by surprise.
So tell us about this beer.
Shall I just do the brief bit in terms of what my involvement was and how it came to be, and then you can actually tell people about the beer?
I'll do my best. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So yeah, beer number one, which is in this box, is Volstead, which is our pre-prohibition American lager. So again, it's within that box. It's the start of probably like a little sort of discovery journey that we're doing in terms of flavours. And all right, lagers aren't everyone's taste, but we'll talk about that probably a bit later because I've seen one of the questions that's come in. And I actually, this beer we've got Pilsner, which is our house pills that we
Yeah.
have in the tap room, which is actually on the keg side is not surprising to learn that it's the best-selling beer. But we've done that for years and it's been really good. But we wanted to brew a proper kind of like authentic, in inverted commas, like aged, like lagered lager.
Yeah.
And it was we just had the tank space available because obviously things have been so slow over the last God knows how long, up until the last few weeks we've been talking about. So we found some time where we knew that a particular tank was going to be empty, so we could properly age it. I'll come on to that in a minute. But the reason we opted to do a US pre-prohibition lager is it's not a style that I think you see a lot of on our level over here. So we wanted to do something a little bit different. But it's born out of going to the States and drinking what is these days what a pre-prohibition lager is kind of evolved into is PBR or those sorts of mainstream lagers that you get in the US, and I really like them. You know, whenever I go on holiday and go over there, everything's about IPAs. I can't, you know, just get my fill of US IPAs and stuff. But you do go to a few dive bars, or you find yourself in places where the beer range isn't as good as you know. Like when you go on the Hop Harvest, I'm sure it's probably similar as well. Where you're just actually drinking some very high quality but mainstream lagers.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do that, and the idea with the name came to me a few years ago when I knew I wanted to sort of ask all to brew this beer. So Volstead is the unofficial name of the Prohibition Act, which was the 18th Amendment in the US Constitution, which basically in the 90s is the temperance movement that gathered pace and went nationwide in the States in 1919, 1920.
Yeah.
And the guy, Andrew Volstead, he was like one of the lead kind of, I think he was maybe a member of the House of Representatives, can't remember, but he was certainly like at the forefront of the temperance movement on a governmental level. So it was the Prohibition Act, so it was basically banning the production of any alcoholic beverages for sale. And it got known as the Volstead Act. So when I knew I was going to ask all, let's look at doing a pre-pro because it's something a bit different. The name was a given for me. It's kind of, it links to that era.
Yeah.
And all I'll talk, I think you obviously did loads of research on the style and because it's not necessarily pre-prohibition beers would vary from state to state, town to town, because it was all about what people could get on their hands on, and obviously there wasn't this, the world we live in now where everything's so global, you can just click and get something shipped from China or whatever. So it was all about what people could get their hands on. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Volstead, and I'm delighted with it, but that won't come as a surprise to people because when I watched back last week, so I just was delighted with everything. So over to you.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we brewed it, like Tom said, we brewed it when we, over the lockdowns, we've had sort of peaks and troughs in trade. Obviously, the bulk of it was cat in can. And so we did find ourselves with some empty tanks for longer periods of time that we're sort of used to. So it was, well, let's get this, we've got the time, let's do this beer.
Yeah.
So it's brewed, it's not 100% malt that makes up the grist. There's 25% of it is flaked maize, and then the rest is a lager malt that we use. The flaked maize sort of it sort of lifts the wort or the body of the beer. It's sort of lighter in colour and a bit lighter in body on the palate.
Yeah.
And it also can give a sort of cornflakey type note to the beer. So we used flaked maize, which isn't necessarily used in craft beer, if you like. It's something that the bigger boys sort of use, probably because it's cheaper. So it was brewed on just on our 10 barrel kit. We just did it on the small kit. Brewed the same way as we'd sort of brew any beer. Like I say, the difference in the malt bill was the fact that we had the flake maize in there. I sourced, because obviously Tom was mentioning sort of, it's 100 years ago that this style was sort of being brewed. So I did a bit of research and just tried to find the sort of oldest on the market American variety that could use just to try and get sort of something.
Yeah.
The varieties the hop varieties that they were using back then, where are they now? Sort of,
Yeah.
So I found Cluster has been grown and sort of been commercially available since the 60s, I believe. So I went 100% Cluster on it because again I just thought it was let's sort of hop it with American hops as they would have done. So it was 100% Cluster, and then fermented it with a Kölsch yeast strain. And that's fermented at a sort of ale fermentation temperature, rather than a sort of lager temperature. And you go. It's a really, really clean yeast strain, but you do sort of get some esters, sort of slight fruit notes from it, given off during fermentation. But ultimately, it's a very clean strain. And then weeks fermentation, cooled it in the normal way at the end of fermentation, and then we transferred it into one of the empty tanks we had. And it had 5 weeks at 0 degrees C,
Right.
and we just conditioned it in there 5 weeks, didn't touch it, and then ran it through the filter and packaged it into. It was can only, wasn't it? Because there wasn't.
We did a little bit of keg, tiny bit,
Did
because
we?
there
Yeah.
was rumours of a little.
Oh,
bit
yeah,
of
yeah, that's
being
right,
able
yeah.
to open up and
Okay,
whatever at
yeah.
the time. I've got a technical question for you, which I've not asked before, because I thought I'd not heard it before. When you're saying about the Kelsch fermenting at higher temperature, it's still a bottom fermenting yeast, because it's technically a lager yeast.
Yeah, it's
Would other lager yeast strains normally you'd ferment at a lower temperature?
yeah. So usually when we have used a lager yeast strain in the past, you sort of fermenting top of the sort of higher temperature you sort of look to get to is about 14 degrees C. You sort of go between maybe 11 and 15.
And this is similar to like what 18.5 we do, 19 with.
Yeah, it was 19 and a half degrees C.
There you go. I've
fermented.
learned something.
There you go.
There you go.
Uh,
Didn't expect that. Did you? A technical question
No.
from Tom.
Yeah,
There you go.
I've learned he was listening to me as well, so that's good. Doesn't happen too often.
I heard that.
Yeah.
So, well, I've got sort of something to throw in here then. Lager. Just a little talk really about the style in general. So there's been a bit of a kind of a rise over recent years of kind of, for want of a better phrase, craft lager. I was looking earlier on at the book by Melissa Cole. She's written The Little Book of Craft Lager. She loves lager. It is the world's favourite style of beer, and it's the world's favourite alcoholic beverage. Full stop, apparently. But it's also arguably perhaps the most misunderstood, and a lot of kind of craft beer sort of aficionados, for want of a better word, sometimes tend to look down their noses at lager. But as you've kind of touched upon, the kind of history of lager and kind of how it all came about, there is a fascinating story there. There's a lot more to it than a lot of people realise, I think.
And this style's a semi-modern
Yeah,
version of it as
Yeah.
well. It obviously goes back way more than 100 years ago, so it's to Carlsberg, I believe, for me,
Carlsberg.
because of the technology they introduced and the yeast management that they were able to do, and this, that, and the other. Go to the Carlsberg experience in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's just remember that and the Shire horses are the things that I remember learning while I was I learned what a Shire horse is. I don't know. I've made some notes because I knew this question was coming, but you go first because I've just.
Well, yeah.
Talk
I mean,
about a Shire
I guess are you guys lager drinkers?
Yeah.
And what would you say to somebody who perhaps is kind of a big kind of IPA dipper fan and thinks that lagers are kind of in some way subpar?
Personally, because we touched on it last time, I do drink lager. I like lager. I always have liked lager, but to me. But yeah, I do drink lager, and I think we touched on it last time. Just a sort of guilty pleasure of mine as a beer that I started drinking again last year because I couldn't go on holiday, because I couldn't sort of replicate that sort of enjoyment of having go to Spain a lot, but having that pint of lager down by the beach or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would sort of got back into drinking San Miguel, which
Yeah.
it's a decent lager. I
Yeah.
quite like it, but it's my sort of guilty pleasure. There are certain lagers that the mainstream lagers that I really don't get on with, or they don't get on with me. But when it's done right, it's a great style of beer. I don't really understand. If I'm honest with you, I don't really understand why people sort of pick a lane and sort of say, oh no, I only drink this and I drink. But I mean, horses for courses. But I think if you can get
Shire horses, of course.
exactly, if you can get if any beer style for me, if it's
done
well brewed and it tastes
Yeah.
right, then enjoy it.
Yeah.
There are certain styles I don't like, but I can appreciate if they're done well. Then
Yeah.
it's like,
But on the well brewed side, there's no hiding places with a lager.
no, there isn't. No, you're right.
In terms of the craft beer side of lager, again, going to the States and visiting sightseeing, but then making sure there's plenty of breweries along the way. Most of the breweries I've been to over there are doing a house lager and have been since since 10 years ago or whatever. bit easier over there because most of the lines in any bar is keg. It's not like a cask brewery trying to do keg and this and the other. So it's a bit easier for them to develop that as a thing.
Yeah.
But loads of people drink lager, and there's a friend, he doesn't work there anymore, but Upright Brewing in Portland, in Oregon.
Didn't know he'd left.
Yeah, I'll
Right.
tell you all about that.
Okay.
But as in that he's having a nice time.
Okay.
But he, a friend who used to brew at Upright, which is basically like they're famed for their sort of wild beers and incredible saisons and that kind of stuff. You go to their tap room, and they've got something akin to this on the bar. And it's absolutely flawless. I think it wins. It was certainly last when I was speaking to Bobby when I was last there. Stupid amounts of awards up against like multinationals in terms of just how good it is. And they basically their take on it was, let's see if we can brew bud. Let's see if we can test ourselves, because it's such a at that level, and the technology and the it always tastes the same, and it has to.
Yeah.
So it's been a thing in the States for a long time that brewers would test themselves and do that, and they've got the time to do it, and it's I'd say in the last 5 years it's really coming over here, and it's something we wanted to do. We've now got more of an opportunity to do it because we've got our own site to put it through and stuff as well. But
I think unless you can name another one, but I think Camden Hell's really sort of propelled.
Yeah, forgetting who it's owned by now, but when
when
Jasper
back in,
first brought that, and it's just an incredible
exactly,
beer.
yeah.
But I think the difficulty with lager over here in terms of getting it to market is there's all the mass.
Yeah.
The stuff I wouldn't bother naming because everyone knows what I'm talking about. All the mass-produced stuff that's on every bar in every town, every that isn't like a true indie or something. Try and get your beer on that line in place of their lager.
Yeah.
No, you can't do it because
Yeah.
they're just going to undercut you or whatever. But then equally, we're blessed with being able to like the stupidly good German and Czech lagers that because they're on our doorstep, they come over. So it's really, really difficult to get that beer to market to start with. Camden did very well with it with what they started first. But I mean, going back to your question in terms of are we lager drinkers, like Ols mentioned, we just are and have been for ages. And I did a podcast recently with Time for a Brew podcast, and he asked, if I was one of his things that he asked me was Adam asked me was if you could open your own bar, like what would your lager be that's on your bar? It's never going to change. It's always the thing. And I said it's Jaeger. So no hesitation. It's my favourite lager. Yeah. It doesn't mean that I don't have other ones that I absolutely love as well. But thinking about Jaeger, knowing when you ask this question, and it comes back to that thing of, do you find that people are a little bit sort of look down on lager because it's not deemed to be craft, or it's not juicy bad boy IPA or whatever? About a decade ago, when I was working at a bar in town, we had Jaeger in the fridge, and I met a friend there for the first time in a while or whatever, and he's like, what are you having? And rather than get a pint of cask, I was like, I'm having a bottle of Jaeger. Like that. And he literally was like, lager? What? And he really kind of like lay into me about it. And about 6 months later, he was buying Jaeger by the crate. He could, all it took was for him to just sort of like have a go at it.
Yeah.
My old boss at the brewery I used to work at, I remember when he did brewery tours. It was almost like, kind of imagine he had a lectern, but maybe he did or he didn't, I can't remember. But he'd always sort of get people around and then say, right, who out of you lot drinks lager? Let me persuade you otherwise. And at the time I was kind of like, just let me do what I want. But interestingly, after I left there, they started brewing a lager. But yeah, so I don't know, it's...
Yeah, and I another thing that I'd come back to, it ties into this beer. I've mentioned PBR in terms of what probably a modern pre-pro is in terms of a mass name that people recognise. Again, being close to the base that we are in Harrogate, and friends we have who work on the base. I've got a friend who I was out drinking with last weekend, and he turned up with a 12-pack of PBR for me. And literally it was sort of like, you can't, I know you can get it, but it was like proper US brewed in, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like, yeah, like I've got that in my fridge. I'm just, it's just, it's not stopping me going to all these other fantastic beers that that I've got in my fridge at the minute. But
yeah,
why would you not just want one? On a day like today as well, we're all
really,
it's just perfect.
Within the sort of under the umbrella of lager, there are so many different styles as well.
Absolutely.
It's
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of a stereotype or what, but people say it's lager. you know.
But again, I know we're probably overrunning, but
No, we're all
you can
good.
tell how much we enjoy drinking lagers. But when we moved from Knaresborough and we knew we were going to open this place and have it on the tap room,
Yeah.
there were 3 beers that we've got 16 lines downstairs, and there were 3 beers, 3 styles, but actually 3 beers that we knew we were always going to have on the bar. There was Capability Brown, the best bitter.
Yeah.
Because we do plenty of pale ales. We're always going to have loads of pale ales on the bar, but we're like, we have to have a best bitter on the bar. We recognise that we're in Yorkshire, and why wouldn't you? So that got developed. We've got London Thunder, which is our nitro porter.
Yeah.
It is a porter.
Yeah.
Served nitro, because we're on the business park. We recognise that there's, and then sorry, the third one is Pilsner.
Yeah.
And because we're on this business park and we're a bit out of town and we weren't quite sure, but we recognise there's people who are going to be walking in. There's going to be people going, can I have a pint of bitter, want a pint of lager, or do you serve Guinness? So we wanted to make sure
But
we
it's not-
had
it
those
was-
things, but equally it was really good for us to
Obviously,
broaden
test-
our range and test ourselves.
Testing ourselves. And,
Yeah.
you know.
But then we're coming back to Volstead because we already have Pilsner. Pilsner is called Pilsner because it is a pale ale lager hybrid. We don't lager the beer. This was done like as you absolutely would, and
Yeah.
you know, really are nice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Lots of
Well
love for
done,
that
yeah.
one. Just a couple of comments on the YouTube chat. Paul M has said, he's asking why we think the collective we,
Yeah.
think that San Miguel is a good lager. Is it the taste, body, ease of drinking?
I like it because, like I say, it's something as well. It just brings back memories and you know,
Holidays.
there's that kind of thing. Holidays, yeah. But I do like it because I think it's got a bit of a more of a sort of malty palate to it, and yeah, it's sort of something I enjoy when the weather's nice.
Yeah.
But it's it's not the only
There's
lager I drink.
convenience to it
Yeah,
as
there's
well.
convenience to it. Exactly that.
You know,
but
it's available in.
Yeah.
You know.
but I think how long have we been in? I haven't mentioned Thornbridge yet, but I love Thornbridge's Lucas as well. I can get
Lucas,
that quite readily available as well.
Yeah.
But the San Miguel, I think it's a well brewed beer. I mean, it's brewed in Tadcaster. It's not, I'm not under any illusions
Yeah,
who makes
yeah.
it or anything like that. But it's brewed at the same spot where Foster's is brewed, and I think Foster's is pish. So a lot of it is because when I am in Spain, that's what you drink.
When I used to work at Beer Ritz, we used to sell Mythos by the case. Like, we could not sell enough of that beer, and it usually took place in September because everyone's come back from Greece from their holiday and they've loved drinking Mythos because it's really refreshing and in the sun and that kind of thing. And they come back and they're like, I need that, I want more of that.
It's trying to recreate the
Yeah,
big
and
time.
we used to, you literally get
idea.
people, they scoured because Mythos was still fairly,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get in the supermarket now. I mean, but yeah, there's loads of that people love that. I mean, talking of convenience, I live in a village without a pub. The next village over has a pub. They used to have Landlord on. I used to go there to drink Landlord. Don't have that on anymore. Don't like what they have on. It's mainstream rubbish cask. And they have mainstream lager on. But if we go in and they've got and they do have a nice beer garden, convenience.
Yeah.
What else am I going to drink? I'm supporting a local pub. I just it's not my fault that they have a rubbish beer selection, but they have a semi-decent lager.
Yeah.
So
It's a good question from Paul. But again, I mean, I'm being brutally honest. I know it's a multinational company making it, and I'm not under any illusion that it's the big boys that are making it. But I'll be totally honest. I like it.
Yeah.
I don't sit and drink it all the time, but
do they still?
I like it. As that style of beer, as a lager, I think it's.
Well, coming back.
I didn't envisage talking a lot about San Miguel, to be honest with you.
Oh no. Do they have shy horses in Doncaster? Because that's my memory from the lager brewery I went to. I don't know if I mentioned it.
Yes, they do. They still
do?
deliver. They still deliver the beer. Yeah.
The cameras have dropped.
The cameras have dropped.
Oh,
I think
dear.
people
So-
can still hear us.
Can people still hear us, do you think?
Somebody said it's very dark in the brewery, so...
Right. Do you want me to get off the hit and do this? Bear with me.
We can keep talking about lager.
Yeah, can we talk about our lager?
We don't want to drive people to San Miguel, do we, really?
No, not really, but I can't lie. So, you know.
It's fine. You like what you like.
Yeah, but yeah, as a style lager, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. And
I don't normally drink lager, but I don't mind it when it is warm. It is one of those kind of really
Yeah.
refreshing.
And, you know, Tom touched upon it, there is no, from a quality point of view, from a production point of view, there is no hiding place
Yeah.
for any off flavours at all.
Yeah.
It is quite a challenge to sort of to do that and to make something that's so clean and doesn't have any sort of any hint of any sort of off flavours or anything like that. It is a challenge, but
Yeah.
I think when they're made and made well, then I'm not put off by them.
Nice.
How are we doing, Tom?
No.
Technical
We
issues.
don't know what's going on. You move on to the next one if you want, or
Yeah.
Well, this was you're up, Tom, next, so we'll leave that bit for later.
Yeah.
Do you want to? Should we move on to the next beer?
Yeah.
Which is the New England Assassin, and we can talk a bit about this and what it's part of and what the differences are and things like that.
People actually still able to hear it, at least feeding back on that. We're a bit-
I'm just gonna ask.
Yeah, the audio is-
Just waiting for someone to let
Someone
me know.
to reply, yeah, let us know.
Is there anybody there? Nobody's talking to us. Oh yes. We're still on.
Okay.
I mean, we might be better in the dark.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who said that? Yeah, so, okay, right. Well, the next beer then.
Can you give me warning before the cameras come back on so that I can, sit up properly and put some more lipstick on? And
Yeah, Tom was going to talk about the. I think he touched upon the last time on the Summer of Assassin, where it's 10 years ago since the beer was still was first sort of conceived.
Yeah.
And to celebrate, we've just sort of took the decision to play around with sort of different styles based on the original sort of beer. So each one is still it's 100% Citra hopped. But within, rather than just sort of
looks like we might be back.
Yeah, without keeping rather than just keep the hop bill and the bitterness and everything the same.
Yeah.
And changing the malt bill or changing the yeast, where I've actually adapted the sort of hopping side of each recipe to suit the beer style, because I don't think, certainly with this one that we're going to try, I don't think having the IBUs as high, the bitterness as high, as a baby face, I don't think that would work at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's a sort of linear kind of path that we sort of strayed off depending on the style. So I don't know, Tom, you want to talk about?
We had the Tropical Assassin last month, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi Tom, welcome
Hi.
back. Not in any way flustered.
Well, as long as we've got one camera, which I think we have. I don't know what, neither me or Andrew have a clue about that. But
Right, well, people are telling us that we're back, and Robin said that it was like a true crime podcast. And it was all dark, so it's all good.
My wife will like that then. The true crime bit, not that it went. Forgive me, but I wasn't paying any attention to what you were talking about because I was just trying to focus on that. So, Summer of Assassin, is that what you'd like me to talk about? Or have you mentioned that?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but
Hello.
yeah.
So
that on.
mentioned it in the last, the first video that we did, or live stream event we did with this. Tropical Assassin, like Rachel mentioned, went in the first box to the second beer of the Summer of Assassin, which celebrates 10 years since Babyface was first conceived, we've developed a Summer of Assassin series of beers. So we did Tropical Assassin, which is still available on the website and in the tap room and all good stockists, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We followed it up with New England Assassin. So the idea is, have you delved into the brewing of the beer and the differences?
A little bit, but not. I'll
But you'll
come back
come
to
to
it.
it, yeah. So the idea with the Summer of Assassin, the concept of it is that Babyface is 100% Citra. So we did Tropical once before, but people loved it and wanted to come back, and it was like, what else could we do differently? And New England style IPAs are obviously really popular, and we wanted to. I just thought, well, what an interesting thing to do is take our flagship beer in can in particular, or in keg as well, but our absolute flagship beer away from Yankee and cask, and have a play around with it. It's still 100% Citra, but it's been applied to a completely different style of IPA. So really excited about adding this one into the thing, and I think it's the one that most people are probably quite excited about. Yeah, it's 100% Citra. I'll tell us how and why it's different to Babyface, even though it's the same almost.
Yeah, well, like I was sort of just saying before to Rachel, it's it's that the fact that it's 100% Citra will not change regardless of the style. But yeah, this one, it's in the grist. So for Babyface Assassin, I'll talk to you, Rachel. Babyface Assassin, I'm looking at him. You asked the question, but sorry. Babyface Assassin.
Why don't you look? I was going to say look down the camera. I don't know which one's working.
Babyface Assassin is predominantly a pale malt, but there's a little bit of wheat in there and some Munich malt, which the Munich malt gives it a bit more of a sort of, you get that sort of malty sort of backbone to it, opposed to something like Yankee that doesn't have it in.
Yeah.
But with the New England Assassin, Munich malt isn't really the right sort of malt to sort of put in there. The beers are generally more sweeter, softer on the palate, lower IBUs, lower bitterness. So thanks for asking, Tom. In the grist, removed all the Munich malt and basically jacked up the percentage of wheat and lowered the percentage of pale malt. We kept the ABV the same, but then lowered the bitterness. And I played around with this one where I sort of had a little more of a play on using the hops during fermentation and beyond, rather than like with Babyface, the majority of the hops go in on the hot side of the process. So yeah, this was more heavily sort of concentrated on colder temperature hopping, where we don't leach out the bitterness from the hops. And like I say, the bitterness was just brought right down to suit the style.
Yeah.
Just gonna check my notes. That's it.
Yeah, I really like this one. I think it's really quite easy drinking.
Sorry, isn't it? Because I forgot the yeast. Yeah, we fermented it with a similar yeast strain that we have fermented our other New England IPAs with.
Yeah.
So it's a yeast strain that has originated from the sort of Vermont area of the US.
What temp does that ferment out at?
I actually fermented it out at the same temperature as Babyface Assassin.
Oh, there you go.
So we're looking at, with all our beers, they have a fermentation profile which we adhere to. So we control the temperature so that we can get that consistency from brew to brew, and so that the fermentation profile, we're hopefully matching from brew to brew.
Yeah.
And so that there isn't, it's all the consistency side of it really. So I fermented it out at the same temperature as Babyface, which we start at 19 degrees C, and over the course of fermentation, so over 5 days, we'll let that temperature at the same point. Each brew will increase the temperature, or let it increase.
Yeah.
We go up to sort of 20.5 degrees C, so it's only 1.5 degrees difference. But so I did the same fermentation profile as Babyface.
Okay, nice.
I was having a conversation with one of our trade customers towards the end of last week on the phone, and was talking him through the Summer of Assassin beers, and he was like, you know, we've done tropical before, so we've played around with Babyface in that sense, and you know, there's other breweries who do like fruited versions of their house IPA or pale ale or whatever.
Yeah.
But he fed back to me that he thought it was particularly interesting that we've gone on this journey with the Summer of Assassin, and the fact that what Oz just described is basically taking Babyface and using, you know, tweaking the ingredients to suit the style, but take it on that journey in as much as like creating a New England version of it. So
Yeah.
I'm, you know, it literally, anyone who's bought and had box 2 delivered, it hasn't gone on sale to anyone else yet. So that's the whole point of the Discovery Club, is you get bonuses like that you get to drink beers before anyone
Yeah.
else. So, but yeah, to get feedback from people when we've just told them about it rather than them actually drinking it yet,
Yeah.
that they really like the concept and what we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm particularly excited, and you know, we've got 3 more Summer Assassin beers to come
3
in the
more?
month, which
Version 3 I'm brewing tomorrow.
yes, version 3 is, and it may or may not be. The rumours can neither be confirmed nor denied.
Oh no, you're going to give too much away.
That it might, no, it'll be in the next box.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
I've always wondered what Citra would be like in an Imperial.
Although if Andrew's put that card up showing what it is, everyone knows exactly what's coming
Oh,
next.
yeah. Well, we've got a couple of really nice comments. Simon Gibson saying he loves this one and he loves the Assassin beers.
Thanks, Simon.
And someone else
Thank you.
saying a lovely variation on BFA, great work. So,
Good, yeah, I'm
some
pleased
nice
with how
positive feedback.
it's turned out. Because Citra is a bit of a sort of a brute of a hop.
Yeah.
That, you know, I was, even though we'd sort of purposely lowered the bitterness on it, I was
Yeah.
a little bit concerned that it still might just be, might not sort of drop into the sort of style as a 100% sort
Yeah.
of hop. But yeah, I think I'm pleased with it. It's good.
Just going completely off on a complete tangent, Simon actually came and spoke to me in the tap room when I was having a beer last week, and asked me a question that I thought actually it just popped in my head because I've obviously heard his name and recognised his name again. But he wondered, and I've not asked you this yet, I might have mentioned it to you, but further down the line with these events, would we ever consider doing this, still going out on YouTube Live, but possibly having some local people here, a live audience who can go, ooh.
Yeah. Get on with it, dickhead.
Well,
Kind of
Oh,
thing.
no, I'm not going to invite Mum again.
Oh, no, actually, yeah.
I think it'd be lovely
But
to do
it'd be
that.
interesting to hear from people either in the comments or whatever, because I really I hadn't thought of it, and then Simon mentioned it, I was like, that does sound like quite a
Yeah,
fun
and it's
thing.
nice to give people perhaps the option to come to them, but also to join in. But
Yeah, we wouldn't stop doing this. We wouldn't have to pay for the lighting. But
I was just thinking actually to be able to get even liver feedback on the beers, then
Yeah.
it'd be quite nice.
yeah, and there could be an opportunity for people to ask questions on the night as well as whatever. But just hearing Simon's name, I thought
Yeah.
I could wait
No,
and,
it's
ask,
a
and
good.
talk to you about it. But I might
It
as well
feels
ask
like
now.
a good natural step as things hopefully relax and open up.
I think
a
we'd
bit
probably
more.
have to keep just see how things do open
Yeah.
up. But I think if there's an
Yeah, of
appetite for it,
course.
I think it would be quite.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Would
Would be
do
like
it.
50 quid a ticket or something
50,
like that? Yeah.
£55.
Probably. Signed photos, chuck that in.
Plus,
I've just got a couple of things that people have sent in advance just to mention regarding yeast, basically, specifically on this one. Rich Griffiths is a home brewer. I've seen him say hello on the chat, I think, so I think he's here.
Hello.
He is a home brewer, so he asked about whether you're using the house wet yeast on the small batch beers.
I can answer that if you want.
Joke. Yes, we are. Yeah.
That was an easy one.
Yes, we are.
And
What do you mean?
Not
by,
on-
hang
not on all of-
Hang
all of-
on.
okay.
What do you-
Oh, hang
no,
on.
we're not.
We've got some.
Oh, what?
Our house yeast on small batch. We're doing. This is an example of we're not using the house yeast on the small.
No,
batch.
but we do.
We do both.
We do both. Yeah.
Oh,
so we are using-
I thought your answer was like yes and nothing but.
No, we do. It depends on
Right.
again. It depends
Yeah,
on the
not
style.
always.
It depends
Yeah.
on the beer.
Yeah, on the small batch. I mean, the
Right.
Billy Brown was brewed.
There
on
you
the-
go, Rich.
on the-
That
Both
was,
the cans. And the one
clear as
tomorrow.
mud.
And the one tomorrow, yeah. The one
Yeah.
tomorrow we'll be using the house yeast.
The answer is yes and no.
Yeah. We've also got a question from Mark Barlow, who said he recognises a distinctive flavour from Rooster's beers, and he's asking if is this down to the house yeast?
Yeah.
Yes, no.
No. A lot of it, yeah. A lot of it will be. We use the predominant pale malt that we use is Golden Promise, which I believe up until a few years ago, there was only Roosters and Timothy Taylors that were contracted
Okay.
to use that malt. Who contracted to use that malt? Other brewers were using it, but
Yeah.
more and more now, there's breweries that are contracted to, have contracted to use that malt. I know Magic Rock do, Ilkley, too, that spring to mind. So I think there's a little bit of that, because it offers a much more kind of malty. I'm not just saying malty like with the Munich one, but opposed to something like a Marisotto, which is a bit more sort of bready note to it. But Golden Promise is a bit more sort of malty, just a bit more depth to it. So I think there's a bit of that. But
Would you say biscuity? Or would
No.
you not say, no, you wouldn't say biscuity.
So I think there is a bit of that.
Yeah.
But certainly the yeast is a massive. Our yeast strain, if you trace its root when Sean started brewing, it goes back to Thwaites. So originally it will have been started at Thwaites and used. There were in the 80s and I think in the 90s, Thwaites were actually a brewery that were very, very happy to give smaller breweries yeast.
Right.
There's a lot. I won't bore you with them, but there's a lot of sort of northern breweries that I know that still use strains that derive from Thwaites.
Crikey.
But we are also the current generation we're on is since we last propagated it, or we never acid wash, which is more probably technical than people are bothered about. But we're currently on generation 420, so we're repitching every single week. So it's basically been 420 weeks since we last propagated a fresh strain from scratch, which is testament to everyone in the team really to keep. I think I mentioned last time, 90% of what we're doing is cleaning.
Yeah.
Come to work to make sure that the yeast is happy and you're looking after the yeast.
Yeah.
So it's testament to everyone who works here that we're able to sort of still be using a strain that we've probably got, I don't know, do the maths, 8 years ago or something like that was when we last propagated it. So, yeah, to answer the question, yeah, absolutely. The yeast strain, it's an ale yeast. So if you were to try it side by side with, I think when we brewed Mind Games, I used a different English strain. And it wasn't until I tried Mind Games side by side, and I think I had a pint of YPA first or after, and had the Mind Games on the bar downstairs, that I really sort of was struck by how much of a really sort of quintessential kind of ale strain flavour it had.
Yeah, I think we hear a lot of people, we get a lot of feedback in terms of people talking about that Roosters kind of quality, for want of a better word, not essence, or there's a roosteriness to some of to the beers. And obviously before we started branching out and brewing New Englands and lagers and whatever, everything was our house strain for a long time. In terms of what Ol's talked about in terms of generation 400 and whatever it was, 420, the hardest thing I do our liaise with Ol and Stu, and in particular, like the three of us kind of obviously try and what we have, the biggest struggle over the last 12 months has been keeping our house yeast going, because when Ol's talking about we're using it, we're needing, for example, if we brewed with it on a Monday, we're skimming off that brew to then being able to brew again the following Monday.
Yeah.
And that's easy when you're brewing cask beer and you've got Yankee and YPA and Buckeye and whatever in your regular range of beers. It's easy in inverted commas to make sure that we've got the right brews. We can't crop it off. So it's used in Babyface and 24/7, but we can't necessarily crop it off them. You can go into it in a minute, but if you want to, but there's certain ABVs limitations, and if something's dry hopped, you can't. You're affecting the next beer down the line or whatever. So there's certain of our house beers that we have to crop it off. And the hardest thing over the last 12 months, 15 months during the lockdown with no pubs, was keeping the yeast strain going. And I think back to I did a Turning Point Zoom online thing where I wouldn't say I disgraced myself, but I got really drunk, and I remember.
I think I was on that.
Well, yeah. Oh well, you.
Maybe being very chatty.
What does mean? I remember being nervous, and the first beer I opened was like 7.5% IPA or whatever, and I remember talking about yeast, and I remember talking about Cabaret, the 1972 multi-Oscar winning Broadway
Brilliant.
off-Broadway thing. And I just remember that sticks with me as like a beginning of lockdown. The whole what we've experienced over the thing is.
It was when
But-
Zoom and all that was very new.
Yeah, it was very new, and I was very nervous
I
doing it.
just remember saying
But-
Tom had a lovely time on
well,
Zoom.
Faye from Thornbridge. We should have like a bell each time we mention Thornbridge, like ding.
Are we still talking about yeast?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
but-
we've
but
got
she-
5 minutes to halfway
Right.
as well.
But I just remember the reason I've just mentioned that in terms of it's been really difficult to make sure we've kept on top of our yeast, and I'm really proud that we have because
Yeah.
there were huge challenges or whatever. But I remember it being from this time in March last year or whatever and onwards, it has just been something that's just been an extra obstacle for a brewery that has a house wet strain.
Yeah.
And yeah, there you go. Have you watched Cabaret since I? No? Okay.
I don't think so.
No, it's a shame.
anything
You've still
to
got my
add?
DVD.
Anything
No.
to add about yeast?
Sorry.
Paul?
Sound out then. Anything else to add? Unless anybody has any questions, but
We have
I have sort of limited knowledge on yeast, but I can do my best.
Rich Griff is saying, labour of love looking after that yeast. I get the Roosters taste in your mainstream beers, but won't have guessed that you've used it in Super Pumped and Tropical Assassin.
We did use it in Tropical Assassin. Super Pumped, no, we didn't. We used an West Coast strain in Super Pumped, but yeah, that's yeast. I think there's over 400 sort of flavour compounds that yeast can produce, so it's a massive thing in beer, and it can be certainly when there's when it's a wet strain. So I say wet strain is one that you reharvest and repitch. I mean, for the New England Assassin, for example, we've got, it's a dried yeast. It comes repackaged, packaged like you'd see if you were baking at home. You know that the big quantity, and you can repitch that if you want. You can move it from brew to brew, but we don't. You know, we've got our own house strain, and so yeast husbandry is a very massively important sort of part of what we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially cask breweries that are predominantly cask producers, and ones that have been around before the sort of craft boom of the last sort of 10 years. They are the ones who probably have that sort of distinctive, you know, have their own sort of distinctive sort of flavour because the strains have been there for a while.
Yeah.
But that said, I am aware of breweries who have strains that are probably American strains, and you know that's in their sort of DNA of their beer. But yeah, yeast is a massive impactor on flavour.
I think you might as well mention. You mentioned obviously Golden Promise, and the yeast was what the question was around, but water as well. With the water that we have.
Yeah, water. We're very.
That is definitely part of the makeup of the Roosters.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
flavour,
very
if you like.
blessed. We're very blessed in Knaresborough and Harrogate. The waters when we moved from Knaresborough to here. There's a little bit of a variation in the water, but not massively. But we're really blessed here to be have soft water, which is ideal for making pale beers.
Yeah.
So that does help as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about the great water around here.
Yeah.
Harrogate's
that's
built
good.
on water, isn't it? So it's it sounds to sense that it's an advantage in all
Yeah,
sorts
absolutely.
of ways.
But yeah, it's for making pale ales, soft water is ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We are at pretty much bang on halfway. We skipped a question when we went into true dark crime mode. So we'll try and catch back up. But should we take a little break there and let people go and restock their beers and their glasses?
Should we
Give them a break.
How long are we having?
How long should we say? I'm like 3, 4, 5 minutes. I don't mind. How long do people?
5 minutes?
At what point do people want to go and not come back? Is 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Is fine.
We've still got questions coming up, so we've
Good,
still got
good,
people that want to chat. So
Yeah.
we'll be back in 5.
We'll go and put
Excellent.
50p in the Wi-Fi meter.
Yeah. Super.
We're back. That was quick. Hopefully you've charged your glasses or at least got the next beers ready. We are moving straight on. We skipped over a question last time while we dealt with a small drama. So we're going to pick back up on that. Tom, events at the tap room.
Yes.
It's been a long time
Yes.
since anybody's been able to do this kind of thing. I believe you've got something coming up.
I believe we have. You may or may not have heard about it, Rachel. On Wednesday, June the 9th, we're having our first live event back at the tap room since all of the coronavirus, COVID-19 shenanigans have stopped us being able to do anything. So I'm like, you actually came to our last event, which was the outdoor dinner launch, which was a few weeks before all this
Feels
went
like
mad,
years ago
end
now.
of Feb last year, yeah. So, but yeah, we're hosting a Women on Tap event where we have live music in this very room performed by the Paperweights, which I'm really, really excited about. And I believe you know more about this than I probably do. It is an event that's hosted by Roosters but organised by Women on Tap. And who better to tell us about it than you, if I may throw it back to you.
Well, okay then, I'll try. So we're just absolutely over the moon this year. So it's the 5th year of Women on Tap, and we are actually able to have an element of live events. We hope, I don't think we'll quite believe it until we're there.
So we're here.
Till we're sat here with beer in hand, and then we'll believe it. So it's the 5th year. Women on Tap is basically a beer equality festival. It's all about showcasing women that work in beer and creating spaces where women feel comfortable to learn about beer and to explore beer and to basically just drink and enjoy beer. And so it's the 5th year. Last year we put the whole festival online. We didn't give up on it. We didn't pull the plug. We just kind of went, let's just do it online. And it felt really, really special because a lot of the beer community in particular at the time were like reeling from what the hell is going on, what's happening.
Well, one of the last beers actually we brewed here was
yeah.
with you and Melissa Cole.
It was.
And for a Women on Tap beer that was going to be at certain events and things last year.
Yeah.
It was.
Other than selling a little bit through bag in box on the website for home delivery when lockdown 1 happened,
Yeah.
we had to pour all that away, unfortunately. And it's
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
nice for us. You know, you asked us would we be interested in hosting this event, and
Yeah.
for me it was like, just
Yeah.
whatever we need to do, we'll make it happen because
Yeah.
it's an important step for us to get back to normality, but it's obviously important for you because you managed to keep Women on Tap going last year without any. It was all about venues. It was all about, I know
Yeah.
you work closely with a lot of venues locally
Yeah.
to put on these varied events. So it was a no-brainer
Yeah.
for us to jump at that. I was delighted that you asked us.
Last year kind of it shifted what the festival was because, like you say, it's traditionally been around pop-up events in all the great kind of beer spaces, tap rooms, breweries, bars in Harrogate, and it was all about Harrogate and Knaresborough showcasing how great we are at what we do. And then last year went online, and it felt like it still had an important role to play, and it still kind of did that. It sort of still highlighted Harrogate, but it was a bit more than that.
Yeah.
This year we're kind of mixing it up, so we're doing a bit of everything. So we've got what we wanted to do was create a festival that even if we were in full lockdown again, heaven forbid, please, we could still make most of the festival happen. So we've got a strand of virtual events still.
What else have you got lined up? I'm more than happy for you to use this as a platform to talk about
I
it.
can remember. We've got all sorts. So the virtual events, we've got an online tasting hosted by Annabelle Smith, who's a well-known beer sommelier in the industry, does lots of training, has done a lot of work with Caskmark, absolutely knows her stuff. We've put together a Harrogate beer pack showcasing 3 of our lovely breweries. You guys might be in there.
We are in there.
I can say there's 4 breweries in Harrogate.
It's tall boys. It's 440ml cans.
Yeah.
And the 4th brewery, unfortunately, in terms of getting their beer in the pack, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, it was tricky.
Go to Harrogate Brewing Co.'s website to find out more. It's those guys have kind of we've all us Turning Point and Harrogate have kind of come together to provide this mixed pack experience that Annabelle's obviously
Yeah.
helped curate as well.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in doing that, go to Harrogate Brewery's website. It's
Yeah,
all being
it's
sort of
great.
channeled through that at the moment.
I love that collaborative side of it because, you know, everybody's so supportive around here and kind of looks out for each other, and it's lovely. But to be able to have someone like Annabelle hosting a tasting of like beers that are brewed on our doorstep is really exciting. And last year we had people joining in the festival from Australia and America and Italy,
Wow,
and
nice.
I didn't want to exclude those people, because if we're starting to reach that far, then it's great for the town and it's great for, you know, our beer scene and our breweries. So bring it on.
Yeah. excellent.
So we've got talks, we've got live music, all online. So if people aren't ready to come out, or if people aren't able to get to Harrogate because they live in Australia, for example,
Need to up
they
the
can
game.
still join
Need to up
in.
the game, is
They
that what
can
you're saying?
still join in. Live events wise, as we've said, we've got the gig. We are operating within COVID restrictions. We've
Yeah.
worked out exactly how that works. Obviously, the beauty of this is that a lot of pubs and tap rooms have absolutely nailed what that looks like after all this
It's
time.
going to be, because of the restrictions, it is going to be super intimate as well, though. But I think it's going to really benefit from that as well. You know, having the paperweights involved and the style of music that they're going to bring to it, I can't
Yeah.
wait for it.
I'm looking forward to that. Definitely.
What other live events have you got lined up?
So we've got some pop-up poetry at a couple of bars in Harrogate, and the Disappearing Chin and Starlin. We've got some live chalking events, which comes off the back of one of our virtual events. So we're collaborating with an organisation called Chalkback, who are based in New York, and they have set up global initiatives about catcalling, so sexual harassment in the street. And there's an account called Catcalls of London. They're all over the UK, all over the world. And basically it's about calling out sexual harassment. So we're holding a event where we talk about what harassment is. It's very pertinent at the moment if you are kind of following what's going on in the beer industry.
Yep.
Where's that one taking place?
This is an online event.
That's the
it's
online
a
one,
virtual
sorry,
event.
because they're based in New York.
They're based in
They're
New
not-
York.
they're
So
not
we're
coming
all
over
going to
here.
get online and chat about what the heck is going on, what harassment is, how it affects hospitality, how it makes people feel, all these sorts of things. People
Yeah.
are going to be able to participate. And then off the back of that, we're going to launch an activism campaign on social media, and we're going to do some live chalking events. So the Catcalls of London campaigns and the accounts and the similar ones are all about, it's chalk art, but basically it's people that can go and write some of the words and phrases that they've been had directed at them
Oh, right,
on
okay.
pavements, on walls, in the street, and it basically puts this right in your face.
Yeah.
And the idea is to kind of just denormalise
Good.
sexual harassment in public spaces. And it's just bringing to the attention of everyone that public spaces are, there's inequality in a lot of public spaces.
I love how, you know, obviously because you're local, you know, we bump into each other in the pub quite often. But, you know, this is year 5, isn't it, for the festival?
Yeah.
Like the way that it's evolved from where it started, and you must be.
Let's try that.
So yeah, basically, I don't want to kind of hog any more of this evening, but thank you for letting me talk about it. And womenontap.co.uk, the programme's all on there.
Festival starts
9th to the 13th of June. Like I say, if you don't want to get off your sofa, you don't have to. You can still join in.
And if you do, and you're local, you can come down
Get here.
Tickets are going
Tickets
well?
are selling fast for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent.
I think people have missed live music so much.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that a lot. Just the fact of, you know, the fact that the paperweights can come here
And they're brilliant.
And-
the
and, yeah.
paperweights are brilliant.
oh, they're great.
Absolutely
But
brilliant.
just, you know, I'm sure they're looking forward to it as much as everybody else is, really. Isn't it?
Yeah, when I asked them if they were up for it, they were like, is this like a real gig? I was like, yes, like there'll be people. And they were like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
There may or may not be
So-
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
We won't need
but there's
Wi-Fi.
gonna be
It's all-
people.
We're going back to basics.
Oh, right, that's fine. then. You're not live streaming that one, though. That's a fully
We
like.
might. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, no, I'm looking forward to it, and it's great that we've got, you know, that on our doorstep to be able to like contribute towards and support.
It's
can't wait.
lovely to have you guys supporting it as ever, and can't wait to put some sort of event back in this wonderful venue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So,
look forward to it, definitely.
excellent.
Be great.
I'm thirsty.
You're thirsty?
Yeah, I've been not
You
opening
can
this
help
I,
me with some of
I,
these
I
if
hadn't
you
even
want.
I hadn't even tried this yet myself. So
So we're moving on to beer 3. Who wants to tell us about this one?
You go first.
I can be. I'm actually going to be really brief on this one because I can tell you that I made the suggestion to Olan Stew a couple of months ago, maybe it was. On the back of us, last year we did Slow and Low, which was a ginger, lime and chili Berliner Weiss. Then we did the Hanging Gardens of Basildon, which went down really well, which was the peach, grapefruit and basil. Berliner Weiss as well, I think that one was. When we were looking at getting things open and it being spring into summer, I just mentioned to Olan Stew, like, you know, let's do, I know that there's an appetite for Slow and Low went down really well. The Hanging Gardens of Basildon went down particularly well. So we will revisit that. But I came up with the idea of, and again, other people have probably done the same thing, but I legitimately thought to myself, what would be a nice flavor profile to combine with a sour beer and mojito. So I suggested it to Olan Stew, and I think someone's come back to us, sort of, oh, that's like similar to what so-and-so have done. I legit didn't research it, I just kind of thought it would be a nice thing. So you've got mint and lime as the key things in here with the Berliner Weiss thing. So all I can say about this beer is, I had a week off the week it was brewed, so I wasn't even in the building to know how it was done, what went on or whatever. I suggested to Olan Stew, let's give that a go as a thing to try for when people can enjoy it in the sunshine. I haven't tried it yet, so.
Yeah, I backheeled it onto Stew because to develop it, because the Hanging Gardens of Basildon was Stew.
Right.
It's his beer, as was the Slow and Low. And he nailed both of those. So, you know, pretty safe hands really.
Yeah.
But I was here when it was brewed, and so it was base beer again. Is a Berliner Weiss. So that's my phone ringing.
I'm going to sort that out.
Thanks. Lost my train of thought. So the base beer was a Berliner Weiss, which very similar to the other two beers in style, and One Trick Pony that we brew.
Yeah.
We just use that as a base beer. It's a very nice kind of sort of canvas to then sort of lay a flavour onto. So it was it Richard was asking about the yeast? Is it really? I can't. It's in your notes.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
So this beer in particular was as with the other sours we do, it's a kettle sour. So it's brewed across 2 days. The first you start the process in the normal sort of way that you would anyway. But rather than running it from you boil it to sterilise the wort, rather than running it through the heat exchanger into the fermenter at sort of 18, 19 degrees, you go in at about 38 degrees C. And rather than pitching, there's no hops in or anything really to in way of a sort of a flavour addition at this point. But we go in at like I say 38 degrees C, and rather than pitching yeast, which would then feed on the sugars that we've created, we're adding bacteria. So we're adding lactobacillus, which is the sort of common bacteria in yogurt and things like that. But we're buying it in. We're not using yogurt to harvest that bacteria. So we're buying it in. It is vegan friendly. And yeah, you leave it in there for sort of 16 to 24 hours, and at that temperature, the bacteria would then start to sort of break down the sugars as well, and lactic acid is produced.
Yeah.
Once we hit the pH, we go for about a pH of 3.3, 3.4. We're happy with that. You then return the beer back to boil.
Yeah.
Kill off the bacteria. There's a token sort of hop addition because the bitterness units on these beers, you want them really, really low. There's a sort of token hop addition. And then we fermented it out. So going on to our yeast, double the amount of yeast because the pH is so low and there's the bacteria is dead, but it's more to do with the pH being so low that we need to double. We use our house strain, but double the quantity of yeast just to to give it a fighting chance.
Yeah.
And ferment it out as normal, and then post fermentation. During fermentation we actually. It was myself that did it. I zested and squeezed 100 limes
By hand.
by hand. 100 limes.
I was off that week.
Yeah, you planned it for that week as well. 100 limes, and the juice went into fermentation, and then we actually suspended the zest and the sort of remaining flesh of the limes that we squeezed. We discarded the flesh. We suspended all the zest in a muslin bag during fermentation, let it ferment out, then transferred it over into conditioning tank, took the bag out again and moved it over because there was still so much going on.
Wow.
And we just suspended it and during fermentation, let the convection currents really sort of absorb the flavour from the limes. Once we were happy with the sort of level of flavour of the limes in there, we then sort of seasoned it with mint.
Yeah.
And it was just done to taste with mint. And then lightly filtered and carbonated and canned. Someone's gone into keg, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've got it in keg. I'm just
keg as well.
writing a note. It was for the end of the thing. I was
Please
going to
don't
say.
put needs more lime, because 100 was enough.
No. Including the next bit, I'll just write myself a reminder to mention that obviously anyone who's, all of the subscription Discovery Club members have got this, they've had it delivered before it goes on sale, but it's actually going to go live on the web shop tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and it'll be available from the tap room on keg as well as in can from 3 o'clock when we open tomorrow, along with New England Assassin. And then the next bit we're going to talk about as well. So I was making a note for the end, and then you both looked at me, so I thought, well,
The only thing we'll say that the other sort of key ingredient in a mojito, sugar, no, it's a sour beer. We did not add any sugar into this. We just took the sort of two
I think it's got a real
sort of key flavour ingredient.
I think that the limes just like works incredibly well with the sourness and the style of beer. But I think it's got a real kind of like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's like mouth coating, almost teeth coating kind of like thing, which to say it hasn't got that sugar in. I don't drink a lot of cocktails because they send me loopy, but when I drink a mojito with that sugar in it, I do get that kind of like
the film.
you get you notice it. So knowing it, if you had put sugar in this, God knows what it would have been like. So
But there was no point.
Yeah, but I think it has that, sat in a beer garden somewhere or sat in your own garden at home drinking this from a can, particularly really, really chilled. I would, like get the temperature down on this one. It's exactly what Slow and Low was and Basildon. In terms of we wanted it to just be so unbelievably drinkable on a really nice warm day. So,
and it really is with the 3.4% ABV, and I find because lime, you kind of think, lime, it's going to be really tart and quite, but it's not. It's really subtle and it is very drinkable.
I think Ol mentioned obviously he back-heeled this to Stu in terms of Stu's success of what he'd done with the other two. That is something that Stu is particularly good at doing. It's that nuance of flavour where you get it's there, but it's not.
This is a thing I think I've said to you before in the past, but it's not too limey. It's not too this. It's not too. But I don't like anything that is too X or Y, because that just indicates that it's too much.
Well, we said this last week. You can
go back to you can go back to it. I get the mint mainly on the aroma, but the lime really complements the style.
Yeah.
But you can go back and get a bit more. It's not just it's not just one sip. Oh right, I get it. I can see what they've done there.
Yeah.
There's layers of flavour in there. It's, he's done a good job.
We've got Alistair just saying if there's 100 limes in it, surely it is one of his 5 a day?
Yeah, absolutely.
You would think so. I mean, it's basically lime juice.
A case is probably, if he does a case a day,
Yeah,
that'll be right.
I've purposely not tried this until now, and
it's a great summer beer, this, isn't it?
That was exactly it. And I mentioned it to the guys in the tap room when they came when they were coming back to work in April. they were asking, you know, what's coming up, what's going to, you know, what's in the pipeline. So talking about some of Assassin mentioned this, and a couple of the guys, I say guys, I use that as a general term, but there was, don't shoot me down on it, I just do, but across the board downstairs, there was a real appetite for just sort of like how excited everyone was for this, because they could just, especially at that time, I mean, okay, we've now released it when you don't have to sit outside in the rain to drink it or sit in a beer garden, but we've released it at a time when the weather's just about turning, and it really...
Heat wave coming up. This is about right, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Think a few
really,
days.
And
really
it's a
good way to
nice,
put it out.
it's such an approachable
And it doesn't get you pushed.
yeah, approachable ABV as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I imagine it's going to be very popular, especially when the heat wave hits. I was going to ask you 2 questions. You've already answered them. So
have we?
can squeeze in another question. Basically, I was going to ask you about how the brewing process differs and
Yeah.
why mojito, and you've covered that already. So I'm gonna
There was one
okay.
thing. I'll just sorry to. I mentioned it in the insert that went into the Discovery Club boxes that went out, but the reason behind the name, I'll mention that.
Oh yeah.
This again, because Stu took control of the brew, he came back and said he was aware that Ernest Hemingway, one of his favourite drinks, especially while he lived in Cuba, was the mojito.
Yeah.
So Stu was like, oh, I'd really like to give it some semi-abstract name based around that. And he went away and did some research, and it turns out that although not proven, whilst Hemingway was living in Cuba during the height of the Cold War, there's a strong suggestion that he was a double agent for both the US and the Soviet secret services, and allegedly his code name was Argo. So Stu asked, could we call it Agent Argo as a nod to the fact that he really enjoyed mojitos, and it's obviously the Cuban cocktails is kind of
Nice.
apart from the Cuba Libre, but I'll just
Well,
leave that there.
while we're talking about names, there was another question that came in from Facebook. Who comes up with the names? This is Richard Hamilton. I don't know if Richard's on, but if he is, hello, Richard.
Hello.
Richard Hamilton says, who comes up with the names? What is the thought process? This is a great one. What's the best name that never made it?
Oh, easy. I can do that one.
And what comes first, the name, the beer, or the name?
Yes and no. No, I think Tom comes up with most of the names. Sometimes the name does come first.
Slow and Low was, I originally had Slow and Low as an example. I thought we could do it with slowberries, and it was going to be spelt SLOE, and then I researched into what slowberries would do with a Berliner Weiss, and it was like, not so much.
But then, so sometimes the name does come first.
Yeah.
Sometimes we kind of have a little bank of names that we'll dip into.
Yeah.
More often Tom comes up with the names. But like the Hanging Gardens of Basildon,
Richard is on. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Richard.
Hello.
The Hanging Gardens of Basildon wasn't the beer's first name, if you remember, what you wanted to call it.
Oh yeah, there's been a couple of them.
And then you came back and said, Stu and myself kind of poo-pooed it a bit and went, a bit weird.
But
hang on. So then you said, oh, well, I was going to call it the Hanging Gardens of Basildon after the John Cooper Clarke poem. So we went, that's a great name, why don't you do that?
So there's been a couple of names over the years where I've gone, and I'm not going to mention them now, and don't you mention them now, but where I've gone, oh, why don't we call it this? And then between you and Stu or whoever's, and you've both gone, no, because that means something that relates to genitalia. And I'm like, why you know that? Like, does that say something about me that I don't know it? Am I not worldly enough? Or what are you reading? But, so I've made that suggestion, and then when I said about, we're both massive fans of John Cooper Clarke, God knows how many times we've seen him between us, and it just was an obvious thing, and I'm delighted that name went down particularly well as the beer did. Like also says, I do, and we touched on it briefly in the last YouTube event, I don't get the glory of being involved in people feeding back and saying positive things about the liquid. That's got absolutely nothing to do with me. So I kind of, my creative itch is scratched with coming up with names and you know, sometimes they land like the Hanging Gardens did, or you know, whatever, and sometimes I do put my foot down and say no, actually I really feel strongly about this one.
Yeah.
And I touched upon it last time. Wild Wildlife being a prime example, the Hanging Gardens of Basildon, in terms of there's a cultural link to it, music, that's poetry, but we have, I don't understand Spotify very well, but we must have a really good Spotify, and it's on my phone. I don't
There's
have
a
to
lot
share
of
it, but there's a
there's
lot of
abstract names that have come from songs that we like, that we kind of, or lyrics. A lot of that's.
yeah.
There's a
We
lot
went
of
through a
bits
phase
like
where
that.
a stage at the beginning where we inherited the Roosters brand, where there was the Outlaw thing, and there was a link to Rooster Cogburn, and we've done beers like that, like True Grit and Cogburn, and there was Wild Mule, and there was Wrangler that we inherited, and things like that, and there was a little bit of a kind of Wild West thing that Sean kind of went down. So we sort of, I don't want to say honoured that for a time, but there was a nod to that in some of the things we did.
Yeah.
And then we went down, I can't think of any examples, there was a few abstract things that were just completely abstract to either an ingredient or something, I can't remember what it was. And then we got to a point where we probably both arrived at it at the same time, where you just sort of like, all right, let's get iTunes open.
I think the first
Let's have a
one
scroll
we did,
through.
I think the first one that was music related, that was I suggested, is my favourite White Stripes song. We did a licorice stout called Black Math, and I think that might have been the first.
I think you're probably right. And we've
Probably the
done,
first
I think we've done, there's another White Stripes, Astro we did.
Astro, yeah.
I think there's a third, and I can't think what it is, but there's a lot of it is music related.
Yeah.
And again, we're not just plucking any old thing, any old name or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily.
Astro was a galaxy.
Yeah, the hop called
Galaxy,
Galaxy,
single
so
hop.
it just
Yeah.
it tied in with that.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
So
yeah.
sometimes it's a bit tenuous. I talked about Wild Wildlife, which we'll come on to in a minute anyway. We can probably bring it back around to that. But yeah, I tend to kind of be the person who decides
You
exactly
make the
what
final
to do.
decision.
Yeah, and I do tend to, if these guys are thinking about approach to recipe or approach to how many limes we might need to
Yeah.
put in a particular beer, I'm in the background thinking of the next name for the next beer sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's a name I've dragged up a few times to answer the question about which
Yeah.
which is the best.
Is it
at made.
repeatable?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's a music one, and it's
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
The best
I'm-
one that never made it.
I'm a big fan of Neil Innes.
Oh, that's not the one I was thinking of.
No, it is.
Is it?
Neil Innes of Monty Python, he worked a lot
Yes,
with Monty Python
yeah.
and did the Ruttles and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, he the Bonzo Dog Doodah band, which did a song called Urban Spaceman, and I quite like that for a beer name. And Paul McCartney actually produced that song. Not many people know that. But so Urban Spaceman was the one that I keep on kind of going,
Having
I like that, I like that. And he
There's
just goes,
time though, isn't
and he
there?
just
There's
goes,
still time.
Well, I tell you what, I'm not the only one who said no to that one. So I do apologise. If you see us doing a beer called Urban Spaceman, it's because I've been
because
over
Twitter
the head.
has said, do Urban Spaceman.
There's a few that well, again, Blackball, but that's because they've turned around and said that's a double entendre for this sort of thing. And I'm like, well, I didn't know about that. I'm far too innocent. So you're intrigued. I might tell you off camera, but
Yeah.
Well,
there
I
you go.
think you're gonna have
Anyway,
to.
I think we've answered that question.
We've answered that one. We are about to go on to the last question from me and then the last beer. But someone has just asked on chat on YouTube, which is a very, very good question. Are there any Mexican food sellers coming to the tap room that you compare the mojito?
They've just been.
yeah, we timed it perfectly. Paradise have just finished. They are coming back. I can't remember what date, but the chaps from again.
It's a very good point because
I'm
it
so
would
bad.
go.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Paradise are going to come back. I forget the name. There's another really good Mexican Twisted Meal are lined up to come back at some point over the next few weeks.
Brilliant.
So
Yeah.
So the answer's yes.
yeah, it'll be in the fridges. It'll be on keg as well.
But I think keep an eye on the website basically for when those vendors, food vendors are
food
coming.
vendors.
yeah, so
Yeah.
if you go to roosters.co.uk /taproom -food, we try to keep roughly about 6 weeks worth
Ahead.
of what's coming up. I mean, Howie, who a lot of people will know from the tap room, is the guy that does a great job in terms of curating our weekly street food rotation. And,
Yeah.
so I know we've got Paradise coming back. I know we've got Twisted Meal. this is a small batch beer, but we're going to make sure that there's plenty of it here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it'll be available. So yeah, hopefully it'll still be available when they
Awesome.
come back in.
Cool. Right. Time to move on to the last question.
Oh.
And
That's
hey,
weird,
you're very
isn't it? Like,
enthusiastic about this last one, aren't you? This was just me being curious, really. So we had the last live stream last month, and obviously it was the first
Yep.
Discovery Club pack subscription box. Of the 4 beers that we tasted last month, which ones have sold best out of those since? And
So-
also, were you surprised at all, or was it what you expected?
So the 4 beers we tasted from memory were Wild Wildlife, the Pinot Noir edition,
Yeah.
Super Pumped, Tropical Assassin. What was the 4th? It's your question, Rachel. I'm trying to think what the 4th one was.
Well, obviously it didn't sell the best then.
Oh,
whatever
it might have
is, 'cause
done.
You'd have remembered it.
That's him. Anyway, whatever it was.
Oh, it was the My Name Is All.
Yes.
Oh, my name is
Earl.
Earl.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Earl.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, thank you. Yeah.
It's
Who
a
could
long
forget
time
it?
ago.
I think Tropical Assassins has gone down really well because it had existed once before and there was an appetite. People were
Yeah.
asking about it. The Super Pumped has gone down particularly well. The style, the ABV for a Roosters beer, it's we push the kind of like limits of what we do, what people expect us to do with that one. And as Stu mentioned, it was there was a different approach to hopping. We learned stuff off Evan and all that kind of stuff. But genuinely, and I know from web sales and some of the feedback we've got from what we're getting from trade customers as well, is the Wild Wildlife. To say it's our first barrel aged beer, you go and watch that video back, and we're so excited about being able to launch a barrel aged project and doing that beer. But yeah, I've been blown away by the feedback we've had on that beer, by the amount of it's gone out to trade, lots of independent bottle shops. The kegs have gone to lots of indie bars as well, which has been really good. But even for our own web shop, we've had someone ordered a dozen, someone ordered 18. Just give it. I want more. I don't even know if I can't remember if they were Discovery Club members. And thank you very much for whoever. I can't remember your name, but yeah, you come into work one morning and then we pick up on our web shop orders, and someone's gone, I like that enough to just
That for me was
commit
the one.
to
I think
to it in volume, and it's there's a lot goes into it, which which filters. There's a lot of expense goes into making those beers, so they aren't going to be the cheapest beers we're ever going to be put out there.
Yeah.
But for someone to be like, that is just so good, I want 18 of them. I want to make sure I get them before they go, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's been really, really good.
yeah, that for me was. I think I mentioned last time. For me, it's the best beer I've made, or that we've made.
You've made.
I meant as a company.
It's embarrassing.
Because there was so much involved. The approach on the sort of brew day was so different, and the fact that we soured it and then we fermented it with a saison yeast.
Yeah.
But then you put it into a barrel and you wait 7 months.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hard work gone into it already, research and actually brewing it, and then you just sort of wait. But while you're waiting, you know that there are so many breweries out there that are absolutely smashing these sort of beers out the park. And
Yeah.
like, got 7 months to wait to see how we've, to see what we've sort of created and what have we achieved. So yeah, that for me that beer is just one that I'm really, really pleased with, and I think. Like I say, I don't know about sales wise, but yeah, like Tom says, if someone's
People are
ordering,
loving it enough to buy that much of it
Yeah.
straight
Yeah,
away.
brilliant.
It's
it's
a really
it's
good
a beer
sign.
that the best before date on it is a few years, because it's going to evolve in the bottle over time. I did my cheesy Brent moment to the camera last time in terms of buy 2, have one now and enjoy it for what it is, and then age one for a bit and enjoy it or whatever, or buy 18 and age them and try them.
And who knows what it's going to be like in a few months.
But that's it. So but we've I thought that's because we'd not entered that market in terms of like putting a barrel aged beer out there before. I didn't know how it was going to go down. It's not necessarily what people come to Roosters for.
Yeah.
We're going to sell out of that. sooner than I would have thought. I'm not going to put a thing on it, but I mean, we've got, because it goes through the web shop, it goes through local independent, it goes through the tap
Yeah.
room, but in terms of interest we're getting from, even on an export level at the moment, for that beer is really
Great.
exciting for
Wow.
us.
Yeah.
So, and my name was really good as well. But Wild Life is the one that's and it's particularly pleasing.
Well, this is a really good link because we're about to move on to the last beer and the.
No one's open up.
Sorry,
Don't apologise.
go
All
for
right,
it.
Go on. There you go.
The last beer and the second in the barrel aging project. Tell us what it is.
Go on, Tom.
So this is Wild Life, the second coming, or version 2, or a Chardonnay barrel-aged version of Wild Life. So the first one was Pinot Noir, so it's a sour 7.4% sour saison that's been aged in a Chardonnay barrel. The first barrel-aged beer that we released last month was, I'll tell you in a second, but it's essentially the same base beer that we put into a very, very one Chardonnay barrel that we had on site. That we were able to get our hands on. White wine barrels are really, really difficult to get hold of. So when that opportunity came up, we jumped on it. So there's less of this available than the Pinot Noir one because we just had more Pinot Noir barrels to age that beer in. But we snuck some off and put it in a Chardonnay barrel, and this is the result. And it's
I haven't tasted it yet.
Well, yeah, we did a beer. I don't know if you remember it. We did a beer when the Tour de France was when day one finished in Harrogate.
Oh yeah.
We did a beer in collaboration with an artist, James Straffen, artist who did the artwork for us. But like a lot of Yorkshire breweries around that time, it was like, we'll brew a pale ale because,
it's the yellow jersey.
Yellow
kind of
jersey.
thing,
Yeah.
Lots of amber.
We'll
with the
use
yellow jersey.
French hops. We'll do this and we'll do that, and everyone sort of, I say everybody, but a lot of people sort of did that, and we were the same. But I managed to get, and this was on the old site where we had no space, but I managed to get a Chardonnay cask. So we did a beer. The bulk went into cask, I think, and it was ample, wasn't it? Yeah.
What was this then?
This was called the Golden Eagle. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we brewed it with. I managed to get some French hops. It was a pale ale, and we fermented it with our yeast strain. But then during fermentation, we pitched some champagne yeast as well, and sort of finished the fermentation with champagne yeast. So it created a really nice dry kind of finish. But I managed to get a Chardonnay cask, but we didn't have space.
French Chardonnay.
Yeah. We didn't have space to do, or time either, really, to barrel age it in time for, to release the beer when the tour came.
Yeah.
So what we did, we actually butchered the cask and dismantled it, and we planed all the outer wood off, so that if you imagine the sort of middle of a stave is probably 1.5 to 2 inches thick. So we planed off about the outer 10 mil, and then you've just got the Chardonnay soaked oak there, and we planed it all off, and we we cut the stave down to sort of 3-inch squares or whatever it was, and we added that into conditioning. We added the oak into conditioning, and we would routinely for a few weeks we just give it a CO2 rouse just to mix the beer, and so that there was contact time with the oak, and we could leach out the Chardonnay notes from the oak.
Yeah.
And that beer I'm really, really pleased with that beer. It was great. So this is, since then, we've sort of talked about when we do a barrel aged beer, and we sort of kick the project off, is we need to get some more Chardonnay oak, and we could get one cask from the supplier we did, because they don't, they're not as readily available. So yeah, this was, so when we did, it was the same brew as the other Wild Life.
Yeah.
And I think we had 6 Pinot Noir casks and 1 Chardonnay cask.
Wow.
So when the beer finished fermentation, we conditioned it a little bit down there. We then split it into casks, and we got one cask aged on Chardonnay, and it's
so this is a bit like Gold Dust, this one.
Yeah,
It is. It's
there's no kegs of this because we didn't have the volume to be able to. There's cooling jackets on the vessel that we'd need to put it in to process it, condition it
Yeah.
for a keg or whatever. So this is
So
bottle only.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's mad, isn't it?
this one is, you know, and I toyed with the idea when we were building the Discovery Club that we might put this and the original, the Pinot Noir, in the same box.
Yeah.
And then we decided to sort of like split them apart because we wanted to, you know, and then I kind of regretted the fact that they're not in the same box together because they'd be really, really cool side by side.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I still regret that or not, but it needed, you know, it's the star of the show. Both of the beers have been the star of the show in two boxes so far. So I'm glad in that sense we did it that way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
We still do have the first one available. If you're a subscriber to the club, you'll have, in part of your box, you get a unique code where you can save 15% online for a certain time.
Yeah.
So you can, if you wanted to,
You can do
if
a
you've
side
already,
by side.
yeah, if you've already drunk the first one, you can make a save in it and get some of the second one in.
and if you're the person who bought 18, you can always buy 18 of these.
Yeah, and then do proper side by side. But like for me,
18 times.
Yeah.
the barrel, you know, I need to go home and do a side by side with these myself. But it's so different. I don't know. You tell me how much, in terms of what the barrels were like when they got here, how much sort of like leaves were left in the Chardonnay barrel compared
There
to the
was-
others. And I get way more wine character off this than I do the Pinot. I think the Pinot is a bit more subtle. on that front.
There were lees in every single barrel, but the Chardonnay barrel in particular was had only held one vintage.
Okay.
I don't know about the Pinot Noir. The barrels themselves looked a little bit older, so
Right.
they may have held two vintages. I don't know. If Stu was here, he might be able to tell us a little bit more about
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But the certainly the wine characteristic comes across as, you know, as imparted a lot more on this one than
Yeah.
the Pinot Noir. I don't know. Let people make their own minds up which one they
Yeah.
prefer.
I come back to what we mentioned last time. So for anyone who wasn't watching last time, with our barrel aged beers, purposely left any hint of a tasting note off the labels.
Yeah.
Because these are going to evolve over
Change.
time.
Yeah.
I want, I'm never going to be comfortable writing something and then it evolves so much that people are reading something and going, oh, I'll have a bit of that, and then in
Yeah.
2 years' time go, what was he on about that? So, but yeah, I mean, again, I mentioned it at the beginning about how excited I was when I watched back elements of the video that were the live event last time. Well, it comes back to the beer last time, this one, some of the ones that are coming down the line for the next, again, the Discovery Club beers boxes will be guaranteed to have those beers in. They're all going to be as limited as this particular one is.
Okay.
There's only one barrel of each of them.
Wow.
That's going to be split. But for everything that me and Olive wanted to achieve in terms of barrel aging, to be able to share these beers with people, you know, over a few weeks ago and doing this one, I couldn't be happier and prouder of how what we've ended up with.
I don't mind sharing that there was actually in this cask only, in the Chardonnay one, I think there were 4 or 5 dozen peaches went in, because I always wanted to do a peach saison, and I thought, well, peach saison on Chardonnay, but just
The wine dominates.
the wine dominates it. So
We left the peach off the label.
yeah,
Because
but there was
It's a secret.
you've got-
Nobody
we-
knows. We don't have to tell anyone.
But even you know, I know they were in the barrel, but I'd be searching.
they
for
were
them.
in there from day one, and then there was another edition, and
But I just-
after a while we kept tasting it. We were like, what's the point in putting peach in? Because I mean, it may well have, there be an aspect of
Yeah.
what's impacted
do a lot
the
more
flavour
peaches
there,
to combat the way the wine.
but yeah, the
The Chardonnay's
Chardonnay,
got
and the-
something to say
the
in this,
barrels,
hasn't it?
absolutely, doesn't it? Yeah.
We've just got a couple of comments on the chat. Mark Barlow saying both barrel-aged beers have been superb, and Robin Dent is saying that he thinks he prefers this one to the Pinot Noir.
I think I agree, but that's not doing any disservice to the Pinot Noir. one.
Personally, I prefer the Pinot Noir.
Do you know what I think would be really good is to sort of play around a bit with food pairings with these beers. Like I think it would be really interesting with, for example, just cheeses. and what different flavours would come out
Yeah.
of each one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that they're both really strong, and I think that they would come into their own with different pairings and things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, it depends how quickly they sell. Like, naturally this style of beer, we've put long best before dates on the bottles anyway, and
Yeah.
we don't know how quickly they're going to sell out. When they do sell out, you ain't going to get the same beer again from us. It's not to say we won't do another sour saison further down the line.
Yeah.
We probably will. We might, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it won't taste like this because of the barrel, because of
Yeah.
what that specific barrel is giving you from the beer.
And also, I think using the space we've got up here, because obviously we're aging the beers over just to my left,
yeah,
and we are in the gods of the brewery. But for anybody who's interested, and anybody who doesn't know, the idea of keeping the beer on oak for 6 months minimum,
Yeah.
sometimes a year longer, is to go through the seasons.
okay,
Because in the during the colder months, the wood contracts
yeah,
and it sucks in the beer, and then as the season changes and
Yeah.
and it warms up, the wood then uncontract swells
that's the technical
swells
term. Yeah,
and releases that beer back into the barrel.
Yeah.
And that's where you get that
wow,
that transition of flavour. So
interesting.
the reason that space-wise, it makes sense for us to do it up here.
Yeah.
But also, this, we're in the gods. It does get hot up here, but also, during the winter months, you do feel the temperature drop here as well. But that's what, the longer you can sort of leave it, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that transition of flavour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, this is, we've got Ols, they're over there, the barrels.
gesturing that
we're-
way. If you're lucky
we're-
enough to be able to get to the tap room,
When you come to the
upstairs,
Paperweights gig,
when you come up
Yeah.
to the Women on Tap Paperweights gig,
yeah, you'll see them.
You'll see
But-
the barrels.
So we're repurposing those barrels. We've got, I think we mentioned last time, we've got barley wine in there and something that we
The
aren't going to mention just yet.
Chardonnay barrel has had beer in for
Which
3
we're not-
months now.
Yeah, which
Probably.
we're not talking about. And then there's a barley wine in some of the others. But the idea is that we'll invest in barrels. Are really hard to get your hands on. Especially when you're starting out, the smaller
Yeah,
quantities.
yeah.
It's difficult to get people to commit to sell you certain things because there's bigger breweries who are able to kind of like, no, I'm
Grab
having all
them.
of that or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's something that we're really, really keen to kind of explore and develop. And I think over the next, leading up to Christmas, July and August almost aside, or June, July almost aside, after that there's going to be a series of barrel-aged beers that are going to be released.
Yeah.
They'll some/most will feature in the Discovery Club first, and then go out there and from there, the rate of sale that it take, how the next, I don't want to say risk, but they are expensive things to invest in, and we're really
Yeah.
keen to do it. But given the year we've just had, there's obviously you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
tighten your belt at certain times.
Little
But
bit of
we're-
reluctance.
we've got some things that we're really, really excited about that are coming through the pipeline, and this is still the beginning of that journey, and we'll be exploring a lot of different styles and hopefully over time different barrels, and
Yeah.
and even then you buy the barrel off a merchant, and these particular barrels got shipped over from a company in the Netherlands. Until they arrive, they tell you that they're very good.
Yeah.
Until they arrive, you've no idea what you're getting, and then until you get the beer out of the barrel 6-9 months later, you've no idea what you're getting.
Yeah.
So that's why we're particularly pleased with this as well.
It's
and
really good,
I'm
yeah.
I want cheese now. You've mentioned it as well. I'm
Well,
really
that's
just
the
want
thing.
some cheese
So
with it.
I really want to know if anybody does try and do some cheese pairings with these beers. I'd like to
Yeah,
know
I'd love to know that too as well.
what they
Yeah.
discover.
Absolutely.
We are 5 minutes away from 9 o'clock. I just wondered if we had a bit of time for a last question, because I wanted to ask you guys. We've looked at a number of things tonight with the various beers. Things like adjuncts and barrel aging and the brewing techniques of lager, and the fact that you've switched out your usual yeast for the New England style. Hops. Just wanted to ask about hops. What are you using now in some of your newer beers? Have you got any plans to kind of be experimental, try something new?
Yeah. We
Cool.
no,
Brilliant.
we've actually I brewed a beer last Friday, I think it was, which because you're not aware of this, but you asked. I know you primed yourself with that question, but we brewed a beer last Friday, which is going to be exclusive for the Discovery Club.
Okay.
And I actually used a couple of new varieties for us to roosters, and a new sort of concept of hop, if you like, where there's already a couple of breweries have started using them, but there's a company making a thing called Cryo Pop. Cryo Pop. They do cryo hops, and now there's Cryo Pop. But basically, it's all about the technique that they're using to get the freshest hop flavour out there. Right? So I managed to get some from those guys, and I've done an IPA using Marisotto rather than Golden Promise, so the malt profile is slightly different as well. But this one's all about the hops. Brewed it last Friday. It will be going into bottle shortly. Exclusive to, that's right, isn't it? Exclusive to
100%
Discovery Club only. There will be none.
There's no false promise in that. It is literally every single drop is going to go into the June Discovery box that goes out, and any surplus bottles, I'm going to figure out a way that anyone who wants more, that, you know, if we have any surplus from however many subscribers we have by that point, if there's some left, only Discovery Club members have access to a hidden page on our website to buy the surplus. We are not making any false promises with that beer.
The Cryo Pop, it's a blend of hops. I don't know the blend, but the process in which they've created this blend as well, it's just all about getting the sort of freshest aroma and flavour into a beer. Now, I tried a beer that North Brew Co. had done with the Cryo Pop, and for me personally, on the palate flavour, it took me back to Yakima in the States, where when the hops are drying on the kiln, they're usually on the kiln for 14, 15 hours, but around the sort of 5 hour mark, 6 hour mark, as the moisture's driven off, you really get the intensity of the aroma.
Wow.
And, the smell in these kilns is amazing. And I got that on the palate.
Oh, wow.
And a little bit on the aroma as well. So they're really, really trying to get the sort of freshest possible. So I managed to get some of the Cryo Pop, but also used other varieties that we've used previously to create hopefully the freshest IPA that we could. It will probably be, by the time it lands in the Discovery box, it'll probably be in bottle for about 10 days.
Right.
And the idea is to drink it as fresh as possible, you know. But,
So
that's what we've done on a sort of smaller scale with hops. We're looking at using slightly different varieties. We're always looking to use different varieties of what we normally use. There are some varieties out there. I mean, you've got your Citra. Mosaic's a great variety.
Yeah.
I really love Mosaic. Citra, you know, the Citra Simcoe, those kind of varieties, they're such sort of bullying hops in a bit. You know, they're amazing, the flavor profiles they produce. But I'm looking at there's a really nice hop I like, Cashmere.
I love Cashmere.
Which we'll brew with it occasionally. We'll do a single hop Cashmere cask only brew when we've done it in the past, and that's got a real sort of white wine sort of qualities to it. You know, again, it's sort of akin to
Chardonnay. Chardonnay,
and it's a beautiful hop. It's
character.
really, really nice. But, there's varieties that we are using. Some are absolute fruit baskets of flavour and everything. But as much as there's I think it's slowing down a little bit. But there has been a sort of clamber for, you know, the biggest bang for your buck in terms of flavour and aroma. But I'm also looking at using hops like Cashmere, where it's just it's a slightly different intricacy in terms of flavour and aroma, and what else we can get out of it. And predominantly it works well on its own, but it's also a great hop for blending with others and using in pale ales and everything.
Yeah.
I really hope that's answered your question.
It sounds, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Another 4 amazing beers. We're absolutely dead on 9 o'clock, so that's ridiculous.
That's pretty good.
Tom's been making like little teacher notes.
There's 2 things, and the whole
Cabaret.
Oh, I mean, I will talk about anyone who wants to like talk about cabaret. I'll just do that endlessly. I particularly like the 8th track that takes place in there, which is anyway. No, sorry. It goes back to me being drunk on that Turning Point thing. Which I'm glad I don't think they've made it available since. But
Have you written down, Tom?
I've written down a couple of things. One thing we missed when I was having to try and help Andrew get the videos back online in the first part is we're actually rebranding Babyface Assassin.
Yes.
So anyone who's got the Discovery Club or over the last week or so bought a can from the tap room will notice that it's got a label around it and it looks different to how it used to. It resembles the Volstead, and Volstead actually kind of led the way in terms of how we've approached some of our rebrand on some of the certain beers. New England Assassin kind of follows suit as well, and Pilsner has in 330s. But we basically started running out of our old stock of Babyface cans, and as much as I liked when we first did that as a beer and it was less of a crowded market on the shelf, it was all about a timeless feel to it and standing out because it did look a bit different. It was, you know, it wasn't bright pink or anything like that, but we've run out of stock, and rather than just hitting the button and going, yeah, just print more please,
reorder,
can manufacturer, we've actually had to adjust some of the information on it, Brexit related stuff, and when you make one change, when you're printing a can, even if you go, oh, I missed a comma, that you want to insert something like that into it, the cost is phenomenal to get it done. So it's like, right, well, if we weren't missing a comma, by the way, it's absolutely spot on, but we but we needed to kind of like add some information that relates to Brexit on there, and we were running out of stock, so we had to make a change. So it's like, right, well, let's just do a rebrand, bring it in line with some of the beers that people have seen in the Tall Boys recently. So that people will have it in their box. It's labelled. The reason it's labelled is because, like everything, because of the pandemic, their lead times on whether it's cardboard or cans or whatever, you name it. Malt at the minute as well, is just really, really long. So there's been a delay on getting the printed cans. No one's going to see it from a distance, but I have the first printed can that was done when I went to our can manufacturer a few weeks ago. So it looks quite tall compared to what it would normally be because it hasn't been necked, is the technical thing, like creating that bit of the lid then seamed onto
the neck.
Yeah, they call it necked in the industry. Guy told me down there told me that. But yeah, it's going to fall in line with the sort of tall boy range that we're doing. I'm told that by the end of next week that's going to go into production, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll have the printed version. But I just wanted to mention it because it's in the box, and if anyone who's used to Babyface, why is this? A, it's labelled because of COVID delays, and then B, we're actually rebranding it, so that's what it's going to look like. And then the only other thing that not the only other thing. The Discovery Club. I mentioned at the beginning, the next opportunity for new subscribers opens on the 1st of the month, so that's Tuesday next week. It'll be open till the 15th, then we will hopefully get the box out to you a little bit sooner than this last one again. Not making too many excuses, but it's an excuse that there's just some of the lead times on some of the stuff we need to achieve certain things is just been a bit stretched at the moment. But like, that's going to go live on Tuesday, but like Ol said, it's going to feature a beer that is never going to be seen again.
Oof, that's a bold
no
claim,
pressure,
isn't it?
No, but it literally
never again.
Never going to be seen again. It's 100%. It's going to be bottle conditioned IPA that Ol brewed last week, and the label for that turned up in the post today. So again, you're not going to be able to see this unless you pause it and have a really high definition thing. And I think our Wi-Fi stream probably has stopped you doing that. But we have our Sixer Plus Discovery Club, this camera, Our Sixer Plus Discovery Club exclusive
Smooth.
IPA
Got
is
that one.
going to be going out in the next box somewhere between the, I don't know, maybe around the 20th or 21st or whatever day of the week that might be. If it's a Sunday, ignore me. That's going to be going out in June. And I'll hinted on the thing that it's best enjoyed fresh. So with these ones, but, you know, like drink it now, get another one, age it, whatever. This has a best before date of August on it. We want people to like get this
Get on it.
and drink it and,
Yeah.
and really enjoy it. And it is yours if you are a subscriber. No one else in the world other than,
You don't even have to
I mean,
share
you're a
it.
subscriber actually, I was going to say,
You don't
but
have to
yeah.
share it.
No.
We're going to be tasting it this time next month-ish. We'll confirm the date when we're going to do this again. But yeah, really looking forward to it. I had a little taste. Ol gave me a taste as it was being transferred out of FV earlier today. You know, the hot pops that you mentioned. The hot pops, what was it called? Cryo pop. Pop pops.
Cocoa Pops.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting and sort of like very kind of innovative take on the hop profile that you get in beer. So essentially, if you're watching this and you are not a subscriber,
Get on it.
you get on it because you're going to get something that is so rare, it's unbelievable.
Especially if you like.
And if you are a subscriber, tell
If you like
tell
hot
people that
pops.
they should probably get on it.
Say again? Sorry, we were just talking about hot pops.
Chatting amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Saying if people are subscribers, they maybe should tell their mates that they should be subscribed.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you know the other thing just to mention is we are going to be continuing with these. We enjoy doing them. Hopefully that comes across. Like you know, they're going to like evolve and vary as we go. So if you
And be
think
good
it's
value.
shit now, just you wait.
And
Good
But they,
entertainment
the
value.
ticketed event,
Yeah,
tell you what.
yeah, we'll get that.
We're going to
sorted.
say a couple of thank yous again, I think, as we did last month.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Newton, do you want to mention again the films that
Yeah,
Mark has done?
So the intro to the YouTube stuff we're doing, the really nice kind of shot intro and
The slim bit.
anything. If you've watched this and thought that's slick, it's probably because Mark Newton did it. So big thanks to Mark. He's the guy. And again, if you look on our social media and there's some really good photos, it's Mark, and he's really good, and he's such a nice guy as well. So thank you very much to him. Thanks to Andrew
Yeah,
again, who's sat
Andrew,
over there, who is you know, there were a few issues with the last thing that we weren't aware of at the time. We watched it back, and Andrew's really kind of gone to a lot of effort to kind of help iron those out. And until I watch this back, I'm sure you've ironed them out. Yeah,
Definitely.
and if
Third time lucky.
yeah, third time's a charm. But no, I really appreciate your effort, mate. So thank you very much.
So, yeah, that's it then. We're coming to a close. We've got a few people on the chat saying thanks and good night, and they've loved it. And
Excellent. Well, thank
Yeah,
you very
thank
much for
you, yeah.
joining us. Tell a
lovely,
friend.
lovely to have you along. And as you've mentioned, there's more Discovery Club sign-ups. New beers going live tomorrow.
Yeah, so anyone who's not a member who's had this delivered already, or if they've drunk it and they want more, it's going to 9 o'clock on the web shop tomorrow, 3 o'clock when the tap room opens tomorrow.
Yeah.
Get your fill.
And keep your eye on socials for announcement of the next date.
Yes.
And who knows
Yeah.
where in the brewery we might be.
I'm going to say we might
Probably
mix it
just
up and
here.
go. Yeah, but
I think we do it. I like this.
We could sit on a
Do you?
barrel next time.
Well, I know the guys in the brewery liked it because at the end of the day today they were like, "Do we need to move anything again?" Because we're
'Cause
set
we're
up
in the
for
brewery.
everything we
It
need to do
looks
tomorrow.
pretty.
So
Yeah,
actually,
tomorrow,
it looks
yeah.
great. but
I like this. I like I said at the beginning, it felt less like a debate or a hustings. It's been a bit more sort of natural to talk across a bar. So
Yeah.
I personally imagine we'll be here again next time, but who knows?
we'll see.
yeah.
Exciting.
And yeah, thanks for everyone who's interested
Joined in.
in what we do and joined in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lots of good comments. It's great to have comments this time.
Yeah.
Long may
Yeah.
it continue.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll try and do a similar approach next time. This is the longest goodbye.
It is a longer
But
bite.
Yeah.
the comments were what we missed last time because of technology. So we're
Yeah,
really pleased
definitely.
with that, and we will
Yeah.
make sure that continues.
And also, we asked this time if anyone had any questions, so start thinking now about questions that you might want to ask for the next live stream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Rachel.
a
We
little
should
bit-
probably
what
stop
were
now.
those beer names that Tom came up with?
What's the story behind that?
Yeah,
Anyway,
let's park that.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Rachel.
Let's draw it to a close.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me again, and
Thank you.
to everyone that's stuck with us throughout our just nice chat over beers.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank
Hopefully,
you.
see you next month.
Thank you.
Ta.